I first had contact with Jeff back in November of 2007 when we learned via the media that a convicted murderer was going to be released into a residential-based group home in Eau Claire, which just happened to be about a block from my house. It was a situation where we didn't even know that the group home existed, and there was a lot of questions as far as, how could this kind of a thing happen in our community, and, how could the Department of Corrections release somebody into the community without letting us know about it. When we contacted Jeff, he obviously, because this was his district, he was very concerned about, how did this happen? So he kind of brainstormed as to, we need to go to the right agency to find out how this happened. And what Jeff ended up doing was authoring a letter to the Secretary of the Department of Health and Family Services, just expressing the concerns that not only the community members had, but law enforcement, and just to figure out, this particular group home, how did it come to exist? What is the licensure requirements? Is this group home, is the staff trained to know how to handle a violent offender? What we discovered throughout this process was that this was a group home that was supposed to be treating individuals with disabilities. And one of the neighbors had found out that they had gotten assurances from Department of Health and Family Services that this facility would not admit any kind of correctional individual people that are incarcerated, or anybody who was a serious and violent offender. And in this case, this gentleman had been incarcerated at the Mendota Mental Health Facility for 23 years, and a judge had decided that he could be conditionally released to a group home. And so how Jeff helped us was to get this letter to the Department of Health and Family Services to question, is this staff prepared to protect not only the this gentleman's safety, but the safety of the other occupants of the group home, and more importantly, the community at large who had these unanswered questions. It's very important. I think the neighborhood discovered through working with Jeff, and he was so good about coming back to us. He eventually got a letter back from the secretary, and he convened a meeting, and he met with us to go through. He asked the specific questions that we wanted to have asked, and then he got the answers from them and shared it with the community so that we could understand the process. And while we didn't agree with the process, at least we had a better understanding of how it happened. And by contacting the Secretary of Health and Family Services and initiating that, asking for a thorough review of the situation, they did discover that there were issues with that group home, and after 10 days, he was removed. And it was very frustrating. I had a small child that had to walk past that corner every day. So he was very responsive to the concerns of the community.
I found out there was a meeting being held on this Mark Staskell situation, who was being placed in Oakwood Hills and had neighbors definitely outraged and scared. I went to the meeting. All I wanted to do was listen and find out more about it, what was happening, with no great expectations. After the meeting, I most definitely started to research the situation, talking to law enforcement, talking to the agencies involved in Madison, and realized through research and discussion that as a legislator I could make certain requests, make things happen, start the ball rolling, and within a couple of days, not only to my surprise, but certainly to the surprise of the neighbors around there, I was able to have them move him back to Mendota, where he actually belonged. And what's interesting in that case is that the family wanted that all along, and they were very, very grateful as well, and also testified to me that he really was much happier there. This was a judge's decision that wasn't really working for anybody, including the patient. And so all in all, things worked out really well, and it's just really another exciting time to be a legislator.